One of the words that I've used in some of my posts, as you've noticed, is self-flagellation. So I just have to describe what self-flagellation is. So self-flagellation in the use of a psychological context is excessive criticism of oneself. However, historically, flagellation literally means to beat oneself, to flog oneself with a whip. Okay, so historically, flagellants or people who whip themselves have been expressed in Christianity. There are a lot of things Christians did in this world. It's honestly kind of interesting how many things people have done in the means of self-harm in the performance of holiness. It's actually rather incredible. And also in the performance of repentance and in the performance of miracles. It's incredible. Look at the history if you want to. But one of the images I get in my mind when I'm thinking of self-flagellation is during the bubonic plague, during the Black Death, where a lot of population died. But a lot of people were literally beating themselves in a way of repentance because they thought the Black Death was, the end times, as one of the many end times of the world, but also as if it was the Black Death was punishment of their sins. But, it was really just carried by rats and they were dirty. But that's, again, neither here nor there. But in the use of a psychological context, self-flagellation is excessive criticisms, and this is one of the ways that we bleed into toxic shame cycles, where we excessively criticize our actions, we excessively criticize our behaviors, we excessively criticize who we are, thinking we are inherently bad people, inherently wrong. And that self-flagellation actually bleeds out to other people, because if you're excessively critical of yourself, you're going to be excessively critical of other people. But one thing I want to note is excessive self-flagellation is actually an act of manipulation. To me, when I notice people are being excessively self-flagellant, if they're excessively beating themselves, to me that's like the equivalent of white girl tears. No disrespect to any white girls, but if you are a person of color, you can understand what white girl tears mean. And even if you're white, you probably get what I'm talking about. But it's a means of manipulation, and the means where people garner empathy or pity or support from other people to make them, it actually really embodies and emphasizes victim mentality. So when I'm talking about self-flagellation, I am talking about beating yourself up or excessively criticizing yourself. I'm also calling you out if you are excessively doing so, because you're not actually doing anything good for yourself and you're just trying to manipulate the people around you. So that is the way I use the word self-flagellation. And I just threw in a little bit of history for you guys to know what that is too. Okay? That's self-flagellation.